Florida, the cradle of the world's aerospace industry, once basked in the glory of NASA's golden era, marked by the historic Saturn V and Space Shuttle programs. Many believed that the retirement of these iconic vehicles would dim the region's brilliance. Yet SpaceX has risen to not only preserve, but amplify that legacy. With an unmatched cadence of launches, consistent landings, and groundbreaking advancements in rocket reusability, SpaceX has far surpassed expectations, sending shockwaves through the global space industry. Recently, SpaceX achieved something in Florida that is even more extraordinary than it initially appears. Let's delve into this in today's episode of Alpha Tech. Strategically located and often called the epicenter of globally significant rocket launches, Florida has retained its status as a hub of space exploration. A key driver of this dynamic resurgence is SpaceX. With cutting-edge rockets and spacecraft such as Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and Dragon, the company dominates Florida's launch landscape. In 2024, SpaceX conducted a staggering 115 launches with a 99% success rate. Of these 76 missions, an impressive 66% originated from Florida's Space Coast. This launch frequency is expected to climb even higher in the coming year as demand for Falcon 9 missions continues to grow. Furthermore, increasing requirements from key clients, especially NASA, could result in such a packed launch schedule that the region might face operational strains, showcasing Florida's indispensable role in SpaceX's groundbreaking trajectory. However, even this might not represent the full extent of what SpaceX can achieve. By mid-2024, the company had already begun steps to secure permits for 44 Starship launches and landings on Florida's coast. This ambitious goal has not been without challenges. Competitors like Blue Origin and ULA, who also operate and develop rockets in the region, have raised objections. They filed complaints with the FAA, arguing that SpaceX's high launch frequency could interfere with their projects and demanded compensation for any potential issues. These tensions appear to have delayed a decision on the permit application for 44 Starship launches in Florida. As of now, no additional information has been revealed regarding the FAA's investigation or any resolution among the involved parties. Nevertheless, SpaceX remains confident in its ability to negotiate and secure authorization to ramp up operations in Florida. This confidence is evident in SpaceX's preparations to establish a new Starship empire on Florida's legendary Space Coast. In addition to a launch tower partially constructed since 2022, SpaceX has recently accelerated efforts to complete this structure and more. The second Starship launch tower at Starbase was stacked in record time, just 4 months after the modules were prepared at Kennedy Steel. Platforms used to build and prepare the tower have returned to Roberts Road, the same location as before. At least 2 additional towers may be constructed at Cape Canaveral, one at SLC 37, pending environmental review approval, to support launch operations, and another at LC 39A to accommodate Starship and Super Heavy landings. SpaceX's ambitions for Florida are only growing, ensuring the region remains at the heart of global space exploration. To build additional launch pads in Florida, SpaceX is ramping up preparations as Starship's launch cadence increases. With components already in place, SpaceX plans to rapidly construct launch sites to meet its goal of launching Starship from Cape Canaveral next year. Production tents are also expected to quickly rise across Florida. A new tent, currently under construction at SpaceX's Roberts Road facility, replaces the SLC 40 tower construction area and extends to what is planned to be a mega bay foundation. This tent measures approximately 40 meters wide and 140 meters long, surpassing the older Starbase tents, which were 35 by 114 meters. The new tent could serve multiple purposes, including assembling tower sections, orbital launch pad components, or creating a controlled environment. It may even mark the return of Starship production to Florida. If Starship production resumes, SpaceX might initially bring critical manufacturing processes to Kennedy Space Center. With 40% more floor area and higher edges compared to the older Starbase tents, the new tent could simplify constructing nose cones or stacking ring sections. Although a large bay would still be required for fully stacking spacecraft, SpaceX could apply lessons learned at Starbase to begin operations within this new tent. Previously, SpaceX constructed 3 main tents at Starbase in just 3 months, from January to March 2020. If a similar timeline is followed at Cape Canaveral, the new facilities could become operational quickly. Adding just one more large tent would provide over 90% of the coverage offered by the old Starbase tent space. Significant expansion is also planned for the Roberts Road area, particularly to the north of the land acquired by SpaceX. Phase 1 planning documents, released in May, reveal preparations for substantial development of SpaceX's operations at Kennedy. Elon Musk, SpaceX's founder and CEO, has stated that Starships are expected to launch from Cape Canaveral by next year. With ongoing efforts at Roberts Road and new expansion projects, Starship is poised to become a prominent feature at KSC, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and across the entire Space Coast in the near future. However, legal challenges remain a significant hurdle. SpaceX is facing disputes and tensions with various local agencies, such as the California Coastal Commission, which recently denied SpaceX's request to increase rocket launches from the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The CCC has positioned itself within the broader stage of global geopolitics, entangling itself in the great power competition between the US, China, and Russia. Unfortunately, instead of supporting America's national security strategy, the CCC has inadvertently hindered its execution by imposing constraints that impact critical space capabilities. The continuation of these restrictions puts the US's response to emerging threats at risk. SpaceX has long been recognized as a vital national and global interest. Without access to essential orbital capabilities, foundational strategies of the United States Space Force are jeopardized. Critical systems, such as low Earth orbit weather satellites, intelligence platforms, global communication networks, and advanced satellite constellations heavily rely on Vandenberg Space Force Base on California's west coast. The CCC's limitations on launch activities from this key spaceport endanger national security and could result in strategic and human losses. Failing to increase launch rates at Vandenberg hands a strategic advantage to adversaries like Russia and China, allowing them to claim victories without expending any military resources. For over 30 years, the U.S. has been the dominant spacefaring nation, ensuring free and open access to space. This dominance has fostered a thriving global economy reliant on space-based capabilities such as GPS, satellite communications, global broadcasting, weather tracking, and remote sensing. However, emerging threats to these capabilities mean that space can no longer be taken for granted. Adversaries like China and Russia have developed a range of systems designed to neutralize U.S. assets in space. These include ground-based anti-satellite missiles, co-orbital attacks, jamming, spoofing, and directed energy weapons. In response, the U.S. Space Force has prioritized resilience through proliferation, incorporating commercial space systems into its operations to ensure redundancy. This approach maximizes flexibility in countering rapidly evolving threats. The Space Force's mission is to deter conflict in space and avoid catastrophic scenarios with military, economic, and societal ramifications worldwide. With the increasing vulnerability of space operations, safeguarding these capabilities against external threats is critical. The potential loss of key space assets would be devastating, underscoring the urgency of bolstering defensive capabilities and maintaining unrestricted access to space, something Vandenberg uniquely provides. Vandenberg's coastal location allows for southward launches into polar orbits without overflying populated areas, making it irreplaceable. This spaceport already plays a pivotal role in addressing threats to U.S. and allied security. Over the past 5 years, the Space Force has systematically transformed military space operations by embracing the rapid deployment of satellite constellations and integrating commercial systems into its structure. These innovations have driven a surge in SpaceX launches, highlighting the need to increase annual launches from Vandenberg to over 100 to meet growing military and commercial demands. While the CCC technically cannot deny federal operations like Vandenberg's launches, its stance raises questions about SpaceX's compliance with state permits. The Commission argues that many of SpaceX's launches serve private enterprises such as Elon Musk's Starlink rather than government payloads. However, this view fails to account for the dual-use nature of these missions. Commercial systems like Starlink and TAC-SRT are integral to Space Force operations, supporting both military and humanitarian objectives. To resolve this impasse, the CCC must collaborate with federal agencies to establish a mutually agreeable framework that balances environmental and wildlife considerations with national security priorities. This is particularly important as commercial and military space systems become increasingly intertwined. Governor Gavin Newsom of California recognizes the strategic importance of Vandenberg's contributions to U.S. security. The three C's must align with these priorities, acknowledging that space capabilities are no longer merely commercial ventures, but critical components of national defense. Balancing environmental stewardship with the nation's security needs is essential to preserving America's strategic advantage in space. Considering all this, it's clear that the California Coastal Commission's final decision must inevitably adapt, not only to accommodate increased Falcon 9 launches, but also to support the future development of the world's largest rocket, Starship. Indeed, since the beginning of this year, U.S. military reliance on Vandenberg has only grown, emphasizing the urgency of a resolution. Agencies have demonstrated significant demand for the heavy lift capabilities of Starship. General Saltzman's presence at the Starship test flights is more than a courtesy visit. It signals a strategic assessment of how next-generation private space technologies could revolutionize military logistics and operational capabilities. Starship's potential as a global rapid transport system is particularly groundbreaking. Traditional military airlift platforms like the C-17 Globemaster III typically require hours or even days to transport personnel and equipment across continents. In contrast, Starship could theoretically deliver military assets to any global location in under an hour, fundamentally transforming military response and deployment strategies. The rocket's massive payload capacity, estimated at around 100 to 150 metric tons to low Earth orbit, opens unprecedented possibilities for military satellite deployment and space-based infrastructure. Unlike current launch systems constrained by payload limitations, Starship could enable the rapid deployment of large, complex satellite networks or entire space-based communication and reconnaissance systems in a single launch. From a technological perspective, Starship represents a paradigm shift in rocket engineering. Its fully reusable design dramatically reduces launch costs compared to traditional expendable rockets. For the military, this means more cost-effective satellite launches and space operations, potentially allowing for more frequent and comprehensive space-based intelligence, communication, and surveillance capabilities. Space Force's interest extends beyond immediate military applications. By monitoring Starship's development, they are positioning themselves to potentially leverage a technology that could redefine space transportation and military logistics in the coming decades. The presence of high-profile individuals like President-elect Donald Trump, alongside military leadership and SpaceX's Elon Musk, underscores the strategic importance of this technology. It suggests that Starship is being viewed not just as a technological marvel, but as a potential game-changer in national security infrastructure. While the military is maintaining a cautious approach without immediate commitments, its exploration of Starship's capabilities indicates a forward-looking strategy. Space Force is essentially conducting live, real-world evaluations of a technology that could fundamentally transform military space and transportation capabilities. The partnership between a private space company and military leadership underscores a growing trend of public-private collaboration in driving advanced technological innovation. SpaceX's cutting-edge approach, paired with the military's strategic vision, has the potential to fast-track breakthroughs with far-reaching implications beyond conventional space and defense industries. As Starship undergoes rigorous testing and development, its applications are drawing interest well beyond space exploration. The military's focus on this technology highlights a forward-thinking strategy to harness Starship's capabilities for rapid troop deployment, satellite launches, and the creation of critical infrastructure in remote or high-density areas. With its unparalleled capacity to transport massive payloads across vast distances at unprecedented speeds, Starship could revolutionize global logistics, enabling swift responses to crises and opening new frontiers for international commerce. That wraps up today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.